And think about a number, yeah, at Cal Poly. Okay, we have some B, B, B.
All right,
Okay,
so
awesome. I think they know.
yeah, I hit it right on the nose. It's about 1 in 4 students at Cal Poly are food insecure, which is a lot. And then actually in other schools, that number is more about 1 in 2. So it's a lot. So I'm just going to give you guys a little bit student statistics, what the definition of food insecurity is. So it's the lack of consistent access to safe, healthy, and affordable food, usually due to lack of money, transportation, or healthy options. So we kind of already hit this 27% of Cal Poly students experience food insecurity in the past 30 days, so 1 in 4. About 12% experience homelessness in the past year. And again, all of this is attributed to lack of money. Again, a little bit more some of this interaction. So go ahead and type in the chat, like, what are some possible consequences of food insecurity?
Lack of concentration, lack of engagement with academics, inefficient studying due to hunger, fatigue. These are all awesome. Lack of sleep. Perfect. All of the above. Yeah, no, you guys are totally right.
Yeah, you guys are crushing this. So the impact of food insecurity, so it really impacts academics, mental health, physical health. So compared to their food secure peers, they're more likely to drop out. They're more likely to miss classes. They have difficulty concentrating. They have higher rates of depression and anxiety. And they're more likely to experience poor health outcomes and just establish those healthy behaviors. So I'm going to turn this over to Haley.
Okay, so I'll talk a little bit more about kind of the CalFresh specifics of what we do, eligibility. So this is like in-depth explanation of CalFresh for you all. So just some terminology background. So CalFresh is only the name of SNAP in California. So CalFresh is a California specific term, and it's called SNAP nationwide. So SNAP stands for Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. And it used to be called the Food Stamps Program. So it kind of depends on who you're talking to. A lot of people still resonate with the term food stamps. A lot of people know it as SNAP. It's CalFresh in California. And then so since it's not food stamps anymore, it used to be those physical stamps that you had to turn in when you were shopping. And now they've digitized everything. So now they get an EBT card. So that is an electronic benefits transfer card, which works like a debit card. So that's why they changed the name, is because we don't use food stamps anymore. So some people also just know it as EBT. So it's just good for you to kind of recognize that these are all different terms for the same thing. So SNAP, food stamps, CalFresh, and EBT. And what it is it's a federal program that assists both students and families, households, individuals in the US with giving them money to purchase groceries. So it's a government assistance program, and each state has different ways that they run it. Here in California, we call it CalFresh, and it is ran by our Department of Social Services. So it goes through the California Department of Social Services, which I will call DSS. So if you hear us saying DSS, Department of Social Services, and it's important to know that it goes through them, because that's how students are gonna, in the end, be approved or denied, and that's where they're gonna really get the benefits from. So us with CalFresh Outreach act as liaisons between the students and the DSS. Yeah.
Point, like, I would like to reiterate too, a lot of students come to us and they're like, CalFresh, I shop there all the time. So a point to refer to your students, we are not the grocery store. We help students get benefits.
Yeah, so it definitely can be really confusing for students to navigate. So a little bit more about, so that's like CalFresh in general. And so we work for CalFresh Outreach at Cal Poly, which adds another dimension of confusion for a lot of students. Sometimes I hear students say, well, I've heard of CalFresh Outreach at Cal Poly, so only Cal Poly students are eligible for CalFresh, right? That's incorrect. So CalFresh Outreach at Cal Poly is a team of students. We also have Dr. Nazmi is our faculty. We have Mariah Silk, a staff member who's a non-student. And basically what we do is we're a team that is grant funded by the Department of Social Services to increase awareness and outreach for CalFresh. And so we specifically work at Cal Poly. So we're specifically trying to increase the amount of students at Cal Poly who are applying for and receiving CalFresh benefits. But just because that's our specific service area, it doesn't mean that we're limited to that. So we also help Cuesta students. We also will help community members in the area. We're just based at Cal Poly. So a little bit more about what we do is we have a lot of outreach on social media, and when we are on campus during non-COVID situations, we do a lot of outreach events, tabling, showing up to campus-wide events. We have a pop-up Poly produce, which is basically a pop-up pantry of Cal Poly produce that we give out to increase awareness. So these are all other ways that students can get to know us. So yeah, that's a little bit more about our program. Okay, and so now I'm going to get into the nitty-gritty of how students will apply for CalFresh and which students are eligible for CalFresh. So as I mentioned earlier, us with CalFresh Outreach, we're essentially liaisons between the California Department of Social Services and the students who are interested in getting these benefits. So what we do is we basically translate this federal application into simplified terms for students. We are really well trained in the eligibility criteria, and we basically just convert this federal language into language that's understandable for students. As I said earlier, I've been working with this program since my first year, and it still is confusing sometimes because it just goes through so many hands. It's federal language, it's complicated. So we're really here to make the process a lot easier for students. So the steps to apply for CalFresh is one, a student would complete an application with our team. So I will show you how we make those appointments. So now we're completely online with COVID, and we will remain like completely online as long as COVID-19 is going on. So students can like schedule an appointment with us online on our website, and I'll show you that later. But we talk to the students, and we actually will physically complete the application for them, and we have Zoom calls with them. So we help them complete the application, we help see if they're eligible, and then we let them know the next steps after it's out of our hands. So the next steps after completing the application is they have to submit documents verifying their eligibility to the county. So like Amy mentioned, that's those verification documents for being associated with the DRC. That is super important. And then the last thing that they have to do is have a phone call with their county caseworker, and the caseworker will ask them some verifying questions, let them know if maybe they need other documentation, and then they'll approve or deny them over the phone for CalFresh. So kind of like I said, we are here to help this process run smoothly. Eligibility can vary a lot between cases. So even though I think the next slide, I'll talk about eligibility, it does vary a lot. So yeah, we help see if they're eligible. We help them submit an application. We answer any questions. And again, we aren't the ones approving or denying the application, but we're kind of the ones assisting to kind of guide them through it and letting them know it looks like you're most likely eligible, but we can't guarantee that because we aren't the Department of Social Services. And then we also send them reminders. So we send texts and or emails providing information on the next steps. So we'll kind of check in, hey, have you gotten your documents in? Have you had the call with your caseworker? Is everything moving along? And we check in and help them out. And then CalFresh benefits have to be renewed every 6 months with a form called the STAR 7. So we also reach out to these students in 5 months and just say, hey, you're going to get this document in the mail soon, and we help them renew their benefits. So that's kind of our role. And also, if anyone has questions at any point, I know I'm covering a lot of information. Feel free to speak up or just like say something in the chat, and we can address it.
I had a
So,
quick question.
oh yeah,
So if students are enrolled now and you work with them and help them get the application completed, and let's say they are approved through Department of Social Services, if they don't take classes during summer, is that like it doesn't matter because they've already been approved for 6 months, so then they really would just need to be enrolled again in the fall to do the SAR 7 form?
yeah, that's a really good question. So we have talked to the county, and basically, if let's say they enroll this quarter, so spring, and yeah, they aren't in classes over the summer, but let's say they'll be in classes again in the fall. We've talked to the county, and they have said that they'll still just remain the same eligibility throughout that summer period because they understand that it's kind of a different time for students. The only time that they would become ineligible is if they're working and making more than the income limit for a household of one. And that income limit is $2,084. But yeah, basically they'll still be eligible. And even if it's a student, let's say a student applies with us now, gets the CalFresh, and then they aren't taking classes in fall, they graduate this quarter, they still can be eligible. Eligibility for non-students is actually easier than eligibility for students. So the main thing is just they'll have to meet that income limit. But that's a great question. And what we always say to students is, worst case scenario, if anything changes, just talk to your caseworker because they'll be assigned a caseworker in their county. And that caseworker will work with your situation. So you'll have their phone number, you'll be assigned a case. So we always recommend just let them know and talk to them. But that's a great question. Okay, any other questions? No? Okay. So right now with COVID-19, we have a few updates. So one is that we have moved to being 100% online. And so we expanded our hours. So now we are available to students Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. So we try to be as available as possible. And the way that we're taking appointments with students now is through Zoom appointments, or we'll do phone calls. And we also email a lot to communicate with students. Students meet with us by scheduling a Zoom appointment online. So I'll send you these slides once we're done, but these are all links in the slide. If you go to our website, there's a little button in the bottom right corner, a little red button to schedule an appointment. So we use Calendly as a scheduling software. So it's super easy. Students just go on. We make appointments 2 days out just to give us enough time to prepare for whatever their situation is in that appointment. We talk with them on the phone, see if they're eligible, and then help them actually apply over the phone. And then we also give them all of those next steps. So usually that whole process takes about 30 minutes, but it does depend on the student situation. Some are a little bit more straightforward than others. And then at the bottom, I have all of our contact information. Our website is calpoly.org. We created our own website separate from Cal Poly's website, and it is super helpful. Our graphic designer made it so it's really pretty. It's really easy to navigate. There's resources for students, staff, faculty, and that's kind of where we have everything that there is to do with our program. So I highly recommend checking that out.
Do you want me to click on there, Haley?
Yeah, actually, if you want to click on it, we could just show them what it looks like to schedule an appointment.
Absolutely.
So this is how we would recommend you referring students to us. Just click on our website and it says welcome, and then you can see that bottom right corner just says schedule an appointment, and you could click on it. That's a little pop-up if you've never been to our site. You schedule an appointment, and then a little calendar comes up. We're full because it's the 30th. And then you just click on a date, click on a time, and then they just enter in their contact information. And we also have questions on there that is essentially a screening for us, so that once we call them, we instantly have information on their eligibility. So that is how we set up appointments. And we also are open to appointments just for quick questions or anything like that. Perfect.
All right.
Okay. Okay, so this next one will probably answer the big questions that you all have, which is who is eligible for CalFresh? So as I said, eligibility does vary case by case. And it does get very, very nitty gritty the more like complex the case is. So that's why we're here too, because if it's a student who's living at home with family, but also has a child dependent and is in the military and has all of these like confounding factors, we're here to help them navigate it. So basically, both students and non-students can be eligible for CalFresh. If you're a non-student, you just have to be a legal permanent California resident. So that just means like being a citizen, having a green card, or being like a refugee, asylee, anything like that. Legal permanent resident in California. If they're a legal permanent resident of another state, then they would have to apply to SNAP in that state. Our county has said, though, if students are here for the duration of the school year, that's enough to be considered a resident for the sake of this application. So they could apply in SLO County. And then they just have to meet the income requirements if they're non-students. So that income requirement, most often students apply as a household of one. And that income, like I said, is a gross monthly income maximum of $2,084, which most students meet. And then depending on your household size, the income requirements change. And I have linked at the bottom of that slide a student eligibility criteria working document. And I'll email it, Amy, to you at the end of this, but it's a really awesome, super, super thorough document, like kind of explaining student and non-student eligibility. And it's a Google Doc, so we'll update it as things change, because as things work with the Department of Social Services, things change all the time. So if you ever want to like look at more specific questions of what is or not included in income or this or that, you could refer to that document. It's super helpful. And then so criteria for students. So to be considered a student on the CalFresh application, you have to be enrolled in 6 or more units. So if a student is taking classes here but enrolled in less than 6 units, then they just have to meet the criteria for a non-student. So they could still be eligible, they just aren't considered a student on this application, which I know can be like confusing and difficult to navigate. And then they must be between the ages of 18 and 49. So again, if they're outside of that age range, they'll just be a non-student. And then this one is what usually makes most first years ineligible, is that to be eligible as a student for CalFresh, you either must not be on a meal plan or be on a meal plan that covers fewer than 11 meals per week. So first years who are on a meal plan that covers the majority of their meals, they would not be eligible for CalFresh since it's expected that that meal plan is covering their meals. We do have quite a few students each year opt out of the dining plan and then apply to CalFresh, and that's an option too. And then, yeah, so for students, they also have to be legal permanent California residents. They also must meet the income requirement. So if it's a household of one, $2,084. And it could be confusing, but households on this application are defined as the people in your home that you live in that you buy your food and prepare your meals with. So like right now I live with 2 roommates, but I buy my food separate from them. I prepare most of my meals separate from them. Like, yeah, we might make like a roommate dinner on Fridays, but that's not the majority of our meals. So I would apply as a household of one. And that's true for most students. And then for students who are back home right now, if you're under the age of 22, you have to apply with your family. And then if you're 22 or older, you can live with your family but apply separate. So like I said, eligibility does get a little complex. And then students must meet one of the student exemptions. So those exemptions are being an EOP student, receiving Cal Grant A or B, receiving federal work study, working 20 hours per week on average, having a child dependent, and the list kind of goes on a little bit more. The reason why I didn't list them on there is because if you're a student registered with the DRC, you do not have to meet those exemptions. So that's why the DRC isn't technically an exemption, but it exempts students from needing to meet the exemptions, which I understand it's confusing. But yeah, so then students with the DRC that you all would be referring to us, they basically just need to meet the income requirements. So yeah, anything to add to that, Lucy?
No, I think you hit it right on the nail.
Okay, any questions about
Yeah, I
eligibility?
have a question. I'm just curious, and you might have said it quickly. So if a student is still being claimed as a dependent by their parent, but they're living on their own, they would be able to apply for this?
Yeah, so whatever, if they're claimed as a dependent for tax purposes, or for the FAFSA or whatever it is, that is separate from this. So it's huge, and it doesn't count their parents' income. So for CalFresh, it refers to the individual. So yeah, if a student is, let's say living in PCV, not on a meal plan, but they're like a dependent of their parents, for this application, they can apply as a household of one, and the income is just going to consider their income. However, it is important to note that if students receive monetary gifts from their parents every month, so like let's say their parent sends them $1,000 a month for just for like school and food and stuff, that would count as income if it's a constant gift. But if maybe like their grandma gives them $200 before the start of school or gives them like a couple thousand once every other year, that's not income because it's too infrequent. So that's a common thing that we have with students. But yeah, their parents' income will not impact them, and them being a dependent will not impact this application. Good question.
And then to refer back to that income question, a lot of students that we do see receive financial aid. That financial aid, whatever's left over, does not count as income.
Yeah, so if you get a little kickback from your loans in your bank account, that's not income for this application. Yeah, any other questions? No? Okay, we'll move on, but I'll send you all that student eligibility criteria document because it's super helpful and it goes into all of this with more depth. But essentially for you all, just students have to meet the income. And again, you all don't even have to know that. You just have to know the gist of it to explain it to a student to refer them to us. But we'll be the ones kind of navigating those specific questions. Yeah. And then, okay, so this is kind of a question that you might not know the answer to. So for a household of one, which most students are a household of one, how much money do you think students typically receive per month of CalFresh benefits? So you could send in the chat which one you think would be the average money. So we're thinking C, so a lot of people are thinking 157 per month. Okay. So actually, on average for Cal Poly, it's $194 per month, which is awesome. And $194 per month is actually the maximum amount that a household could get. So for a household of one. So again, the amount that you get depends on your household size. So it goes up if you have a larger household. But on average, most students with CalFresh get that full benefit amount for a household of one. And it could be as little as, I think it's like $13. It varies every year, but it's anywhere between that amount, but most get 194.
Right. And then something to know as well, students don't have to use this full 194 each month. It will roll over. So I myself was on CalFresh. I no longer qualify, but I still have money left over too, because it just rolls over and they get to keep that money.
Which is huge.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then so this might be an intimidating slide, but I wanted to kind of touch on the impact that CalFresh has on the economy. At Cal Poly, a lot of our students who are eligible for CalFresh have a lot of guilt with like applying for CalFresh or wanting to get CalFresh because they feel like they're taking it away from someone else, or they feel like they're I don't know, like taking money from the government and like not being as productive, or whatever it is. That's a lot of students will say that. So receiving CalFresh actually has a huge impact on our economy, a beneficial impact. So $1 of SNAP money, so one EBT dollar, generates $1.79 of GDP generation. Oh, let me see. Oh, okay. No problem. We're almost done with these slides, but thanks for letting me know if anyone has to leave. So yeah, basically, so in California, right now we have 4 million people who are receiving CalFresh, but 7 million are eligible. So that means that we are missing out on several $1 million. So right now, CalFresh or SNAP brings $7.4 million into California every year, but it could bring $5.2 billion. So just here in SLO County alone, if 100% of people who are eligible participated, that would be $56.9 million in our local economy. And that's helping, local farmers, local vendors, and that just really increases our economic activity. And at Cal Poly, about 5,600 students would be eligible for CalFresh. If all of them received it, it would bring $1.6 million into the city. So some people just like to refer to things in terms of money, and it is helpful to kind of conceptualize that this is federal money that if we aren't using it, it just goes back into that federal pot, and a lot of students are eligible.
So this is our little like frequently asked questions / like our little myth busters. So what am I allowed to buy with my EBT card? So you can basically buy any grocery items. Seeds is another one that most students don't think about. And then here are some exceptions. So alcohol, tobacco, ready-made food. So let's say a grocery store makes a rotisserie chicken in-house. They wouldn't be able to purchase that. They wouldn't be able to purchase like cleaning supplies, supplements. Basically, if it has a nutrition label on it, they're allowed to purchase that.
And then, yeah, I kind of touched on this, but a big reason why students, or a big deterrent for students at Cal Poly is kind of saying CalFresh should be super helpful, but others need it more than me. And California actually ranks in the bottom 5 states for CalFresh enrollment or SNAP enrollment, meaning we have, so many people who are eligible and then so many that apply. So we actually have a huge underutilization rate. So the money is in that pot of federal dollars, regardless of if Californians use it or not. So that argument of others need it more, yeah, they might need it more, but either way, if you need it, you should have it,
Right. And then this is a common myth. The student has a nice iPhone or Mac. Why should they get CalFresh? Comments like that really just go into that stigma of not applying to CalFresh. We never understand a student situation, so we just try to refer not to that and just be open with the whole CalFresh application process.
Yeah, and nowadays to be a college student, if you didn't have an iPhone or a Mac, you would be struggling. So a lot of students choose, like Lucy said in the beginning, to spend their money on those school supplies rather than food. And then this last question we get a lot is, can I use my EBT card at farmers markets? The answer is yes. Most farmers markets accept EBT. Many have Market Match, which is a program that will actually match their EBT dollars up to $10 or $15. And I have that link, FM Finder, so farmersmarketfinder.org, and that will help you find like a local market near you that accepts EBT. And then here are some other, sorry.
No, I was going to say exactly what you're going to say.
Here are some other resources, and that's basically all we have for you all. I'd like to open it up to any more like questions, comments, concerns.
I was curious about that farmers market program. So if a student was spending $10, you're saying that there's another program that would match that $10 and they'd be able to get $20 worth of produce from the farmers market?
Yeah, correct. So not all farmers markets have the Market Match program, but several in SLO County do. So like the downtown market does. I know they're closed right now, but I know Los Osos, Baywood has it. I think Paso has it, and so all that's on that website too. But yeah, so essentially you spend $10 with your EBT card, they give you an extra $10. So the way that shopping at farmers markets, oh yeah.
No, I was just gonna say, and that works for every vendor at that market?
Yeah, so the way that using EBT at farmers markets works is, so all markets that accept EBT have like a little vendor or like farmers market manager booth that has, you know, an ATM machine. What's the little scanner thing? So
Yeah.
they all have that. And so basically you go up there and you say, okay, I want to take out, you know, $20 using my EBT card. They scan it, and then they give you $20 of tokens. So those tokens you could use at any of the vendors. And then if they have market match, they'll give you an extra, let's say like $10 for fruits and veggies. So the extra, the market match money is only for fruits and vegetables, which is a little confusing. The other EBT money you could use for seeds, bread, all the other things. But yeah, you could use that every vendor. And then the way that it works for the markets is the vendors will turn that into the manager and cash it out at the end of the day.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, good question. Any other questions?
I had another comment. I just wanted to say on behalf of the DRC, most recently you guys sent us like an electronic version to sign for like our participation in the program. And that was really helpful for us to be able to get it to you guys a lot quicker. And I was wondering if that's something that you guys are going to be able to continue to do as we return back to the real world. But yeah, if you have any thoughts on that.
Yeah, so we have been doing pretty well at making things go digital. We've been working really hard. And so I think now that we've had like time to create a lot of the infrastructure to do things that, like signing papers and meetings and anything that is easier to be online, we are totally willing, and we would prefer to keep it online if it makes things easier. So I'll let Mariah and Dr. Nazmi know that that was a good system, especially for signatures. It's so much easier than like having to physically go over to the office. So yeah, that is totally something we're willing to do. And even during the school year, when it comes to these appointments, we still offer the Zoom appointments. We'll just also have drop-in hours that are in person.
Awesome. That was great.
Yeah, good question. Yeah, any other comments or questions, concerns?
I was just gonna ask, you guys said that the eligibility requirement for students being like a permanent California residence, that's waived for out-of-state students as long as they're at Cal Poly through the academic year, or?
Correct. Yeah. So students, as long as they're living here in SLO, so for the academic year, I think it's like 9 months out of the year, that's totally okay to apply here in SLO to have the California benefits. All they have to do is, if they return to their other, like their home state during the summer, they just have to let their caseworker know, like give them a call, or you could do it online. Just say, hey, I'm moving back to this address in Colorado for the next 3 months, but I'll be returning at this address in September. So any like changes to income, changes to student status, changes to address, those are always expected to be reported. I think it has to be like within like 15 days after the move. So they just have to tell their caseworker. But if it's like a temporary move like that, they won't move their case out of state, if that makes sense. If a student does, let's say like right now, I just graduated and I'm moving to San Diego permanently in June. So I'll let my caseworker know this is my new address in San Diego. It's a permanent move. So they'll transfer my case from SLO County to San Diego County. But if it's temporary, they'll keep it in the county that it's currently in.
Cool.
Yeah, and most county workers are very aware that we have a lot of students in our city, so they're a bit aware that students may go home for the summer and then return back, so it wouldn't affect their case.
Yeah, and another benefit of the reason like why we are here to help students and why we actually physically help them with the application is if there are any hiccups with their application with the county, we can have them sign a release of information paper. And again, we do that electronically, which allows us to talk directly with the county regarding their case. So we basically are like an advocate for these students. We have a lot of cases where like it's a tricky situation or things just aren't moving along, and we'll be able to email them, and we have a very close relationship with the county workers, and we can say case number blah 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 for Jane Smith. I realize that this happened, but I want to clarify, or why isn't that moving along? She submitted her documents, and then we can act as like a liaison.
So for our next step, I believe you all are creating some flyers or some info materials that we can send out. So we're looking forward to doing that. If you want to just send me what you have that we can send in a mass email to our students. I really appreciated your paragraph on a student saying, well, I don't think I should take these funds, you know, and I think that was a great explanation underneath it about why they should apply. So we'd be happy to send something like that out. And then on our side, we'll figure out how to most efficiently be ready to respond if students do decide to pursue this and they need verification of their status with us. So.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, so I'll send you those materials when we get off the phone today. And yeah, basically, I just want you all to know that we are super available as a resource. We're the ones who are super well educated in CalFresh. We don't expect you to know all the ins and outs. We just expect you to feel comfortable referring students to us. So our email is answered by, I think there's 5 of us staff members who answer the email. So if you email our email, we're really responsive with it. I have it on my phone, so I usually will just respond as we get them. And I'll send you my personal email and Lucy's personal email, so you can contact us too. Just any questions you have. Never feel like you're bugging us at all. We're all students who are super passionate about this, so I would much rather have you email me any question or comment or idea, and have us be here to help you than have you, stuck looking that up on your own, which you aren't expected to do. And then another thing that we could do is we could do a digital drop-in for your students if you think that would be something students are interested in, where we could have a couple of our staff members here on Zoom and we can take them to those breakaway rooms if they want to apply, and we can answer questions and do that. So if that's something you think students would be interested in, we're happy to do that.
I think if we can provide a variety of ways for them to interact, some students might feel more comfortable just doing something over the phone without Zoom. Others would probably prefer to do Zoom and go to a separate room to apply. So yeah, we're up for doing multiple ways of providing this information to students. So.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, so I'll talk to my team about kind of the logistics of that, and we can figure out a date that you all think students will be available for. We could do that multiple times too, multiple drop-ins.
I think the university hour, 11 to 12 on a, Monday, Tuesday, or Friday. Yeah, that would probably be best if we could do that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that would be good. So would we want to do that as soon as maybe next week, or would you want to? Okay, let's maybe aim to do it later in the week next week for the first one. And then I could get you those materials to send out to students with more information. I could get those to you today. And then,
perfect.
Yeah.
Yay.
Awesome. I'm so excited.
Yeah, we are too.
Thank you so much for all of you being so receptive and ready to learn. I know this is a lot, but a lot of students could benefit from this, so it's super exciting.
Thank you for your
Awesome.
sharing your knowledge and your time on this. You both are so impressive. So thank you.
Thank you.
Of course. Okay.
All right. We'll look forward to working with you more.
Thank you.
All right.
Have a good one.
Have a good day.
Okay. Bye, everyone.
Bye.